Hello there, welcome to another episode of World of Tanks from Gainy Titan. As you can see, I've purchased the A44, the Soviet Tier 7 medium tank, and I've managed to get the top package unlocked in a relatively short number of games, about 14 games or so. Now, partly this was because I had quite a few guns already unlocked from some of the KV heavy line. In particular, I had the top gun, the 107mm Zis 6 gun unlocked. It's the stock KV4 gun. And I probably had the 76mm unlocked somewhere as well. I'm not too sure which other Soviet tank that I had. Came with that I had it unlocked, but I was able to go straight to the second package and use that 76mm gun, and then once I unlocked the following package, I was straight into the final package without having to spend any further experience. The third package gives you an improved turret, which you probably could do with. I haven't really played it enough to have a deep feel for the game. My feeling is at the moment that it is actually one of these high skill threshold tanks that it's in the hands of really good players. It's probably a really lethal tank with either gun package. It's pretty mobile. It's got a decent enough hit point pool. The armor will bounce shots. It's not reliable. I mean, you can't stand still and take or trade with it. The armor isn't that good. But if you're moving and mobile and not making it easy by just jinking around and switching the angles, you'll bounce quite a bit of stuff, and the tracks will take quite a lot of shots as well. Tracks are fairly fragile, they break quite a lot, so good repair skills are necessary. Possibly might do better with a large repair kit, because armor rack and engine both take damage, the engine in particular being in front of the crew. I find that it's probably best if you could stay out of trouble at the start of the game, though the temptation is there to get stuck in with someone if you think that they're isolated. But the trouble is, of course, usually they're not isolated as you think they are. But I think the tank is probably at its most lethal if you have preserved your hit points till late in the game and you're attacking isolated wounded tanks. Particularly heavy tanks are slower than you, tanks that are slower than you, while at the end of the game making use of your superior mobility to basically circle around them, avoid their gunfire, and pick away at their remaining health points. The 76mm gun is got very poor penetration. You really need to be using premium ammo a lot of the time, and even then you need to be shooting weak spots. But the gun handling is excellent. The rate of fire and targeting and aiming and all that sort of stuff is pretty good. The tank itself is pretty mobile, going forwards and back, and it's pretty nimble. But what is it? The top gun, on the other hand, has very poor gun handling, in that the aim time is like 3.2 seconds and the accuracy is 0.45, which is pretty poor accuracy. On the other hand, it's got a decent enough alpha, but it is a slow enough reload. Certainly a lot slower than this. I mean, I'm getting a 5-second reload, just a sub 6-second reload, even with a busted ammo rack. So you pick a way to target this thing at a terrifying pace. Now, to make it effective, I think when it's bottom tier is a real challenge, and it's probably something that only the good players can manage in it. I think the average player will find it a bit of a beast when it's top tier, especially, like I said, if they can manage to stay out of trouble at the start of the game and avoid temptation of getting involved in fights where they're just trading hit points for damage. All the gameplay examples you're looking at here are with the 76mm gun. I've only had 3 or 4 games with the 107mm gun, and I wasn't I was pretty poor at those games. It doesn't show the tank to any great extent or merit. It'll take a bit of figuring out, I think, how to play it optimally. I mean, I can figure it out in theory, but basically it is a question of staying hidden, preserving your hit points in the early game, and then using the mobility of the tank and its relative toughness in the later game. The problem with the Top Gun, though, of course, is that you have a very poor performing gun in terms of range and accuracy. And the other problem with this tank is the view range is 370 millimeters or 70 meters is pretty poor. And you're going to be outviewed even at your own tier by an awful lot of your tanks, and you're going to be completely outclassed on view range at high tiers. And binoculars, I mean, I have binoculars, I have colored optics. I've tried it with binoculars, but I don't think they made sufficient difference. Because even with binoculars, it just barely extends the view range past the detection point. Now, that said, I transferred a crew. They have a reasonable amount of skills. Now, they haven't any stealth skills, but they have some view range skills, and they have smooth ride and what's the other one? Snapshot. But they do not have tank mastery. In fact, you'll notice there the most damage that was caused me in this fight was by the artillery. The IS defender largely ignored me, most because I wasn't doing a hell of a lot of damage to him in comparison to what the other tanks were doing, and he reckoned he could deal with me later. The artillery is what removed most of my hit points there. So yeah, it's a reasonably effective tank, provided you can, make the most of its advantages, which are basically mobility, toughness, mobility, and a reasonably hard-hitting gun at the top level of gun. But it's easy to get into trouble with it, and it's easy pick off more than you can chew, and it's actually not. I find it's not great fighting equally mobile tanks, because, in fact, I'm beginning to think that I'm better off in fighting equally mobile tanks to actually stop and face the armor towards the enemy tanks and turn and spot rather than engage in a running battle. Because in the running battle, you're just a little bit too much the side of the tank angled to maintain the circle. And it's a tank that probably would also benefit from just using the handbrake a bit more, which I don't generally, because it's a little awkward. I have sort of the default setup and I don't generally use the handbrake, but I don't try and play the handbrake that much. It's a tank where the sudden changes of direction that the handbrake allow could probably be very useful. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider giving it a like and give the channel a subscription if you haven't already done so. And I'll catch you all again soon.